Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the dark side of Taurus, and yes, it does apply and pertain to the Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. Well, anyway, people, when I'm talking about the dark side of a sign, it's about the sign in its most negative expression or negative expressions and manifestations or what have you. So, anyway. The thing about the dark side of Taurus, well, the first thing I look at is that, maybe I could start out by something that somebody even said to me one time, as a Facebook friend had said to me one time, that the Taurus swing can be very extreme. And I'm thinking, well, what do you mean? I mean, Taurus is very calm, composed, often very unflappable. They're very consistent in their behavior patterns. And she was like, well, yes, but when they do finally get angry, I mean, I don't remember her exact words, but something to the effect that when they become angry, they can really sometimes become very volatile and bellicose and explosive. So the thing about that is that's very well true in a lot of cases. Now, the thing about it is Taurus could be very calm and very composed to a certain degree. When they reach that point of endurance, though, it's like, look out, they could become very bellicose and very hot-tempered, even though that's not something you really associate with that sign. That's really more like Aries. But keep in mind that in a solar or natal chart, Aries often falls on the cusp of the 12th house of seclusion, solitude, what's hidden, and what this person doesn't express easily. So what happens is, because it's not easily expressed or expressed readily, when it finally comes out, it can be very explosive due to this suppressed anger being held back for so long. Also, another thing with Taurus connected with the dark side is really that they could actually be a lot more vengeful, I think, or at least very grudge holding, more so than you would think. Taurus is not the type of sign that gets aroused very easily, and I'm not talking about sexually, I'm talking about angered easily or provoked easily. But what happens is, if they may take something from a person up until a certain point, whether it's insulting, derogatory remarks, or whether it's just a general way of behavior somebody is acting toward them, say a friend that constantly manipulates them and does negative things toward them. When they finally realize that this person may not be their friend, they could really just at some point turn their back and say, okay, look, I'm not going to take this anymore, and they may just go maybe forever without speaking to them. I had someone that in school for a number of years during the middle school and high school that had a son in Taurus, and he just had held a grudge against me for like that whole period, because we had one fight in the lunchroom one time in the middle school, and because of that, he just decided to be my enemy throughout that whole period. And it shows you that Taurus people can, despite often being very placid, very calm and composed, and can even come across as with an easygoing temperament, when they're really pushed, they could really stay mad at somebody for a pretty good time. And I should know, of course, having Taurus rising, I do know a lot about that. So another thing that's connected with a strong dark side of Taurus, a lot of it is connected with money. Taurus could be very acquisitive, and what I think with Taurus is sometimes Taurus will just accumulate possessions, I think, for the simple sake of having them. And a lot of Taurians may sell their items at some point because Taurus is the money sign, but sometimes it could almost, in some cases, it might be rare, but maybe even it could result in compulsive hoarding, where it would be different in contrast to the zodiac sign Cancer, because Cancer would often do this more connected with reasons for sentimentality, because something might be nostalgic or has a place in their heart, where Taurus may just hold on to them just to simply say that they have a lot of possessions and they have this and that. So I think I see that with Cancer and Taurus, but for different reasons. So And the thing about it is, sometimes another thing with the dark side of this sign is that in Taurus, in some extreme cases, can go to just such great lengths to accumulate material wealth. You look at Sun in Taurus, Bernie Madoff, who of course had the grand Ponzi scheme, who I don't know how much money he wound up getting from people, but I'm sure it was in the millions total. And you think about it, it's interesting because he has his moon in Taurus as well, and that made a square to Pluto. And the moon, of course, is about our emotional needs, and in this case, moon in Taurus being money. And you have that square aspect to Pluto. I think that's what played a very strong role in him perhaps manipulating others in using this power to get money. So. And money, of course, being the emotional need for Moon and Taurus. So I thought that was very interesting. And Taurus, too, whatever, it can really go to extremes to get money, especially if their Taurus energy is strongly afflicted. I'm saying at least maybe 3 or 4 major adverse aspects to the Taurus Sun, Moon, or Ascendant. So. And another thing could be, too, in a criminal sense, if you have a Taurus person becoming a criminal, it could be something connected with money. It could be just basic petty theft or general stealing or robbing. But at the same time, Taurus generally, because they're so cautious and prudent, and they often like to, if they're going to do something negative with money, something nefarious connected with money, it might be something where they feel safe, like say in their home doing something where they might go on a computer or whatever, or try to find some ways to get funds illegally from someone somehow, maybe through the internet could be an example, but it would be often done in a way where they feel like there's, in their minds anywhere, where it'd be at least risky as far as them, and where they feel where they're protected. So those are some things to look at in terms of Taurus and the dark side of this sign. Well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for the dark side of Taurus. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be talking about the dark side of Gemini. 2 things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel, but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.